Hello there, guys and gals. I just thought I'd share with you the findings from my telephone interview today. So those of you that don't know, I had a telephone interview this morning, and I just thought I'd share some of the, feelings and prep that I did before this telephone interview, which if you're contracting already, obviously some of that's going to be completely obvious to you. But if you've not got your first contract yet, then maybe this could help you. So I posted in the group the other day about, do you actually do any prep for interviews? So it might sound like a stupid question, but part of me doesn't like to do a lot of prep for interviews because I like to think that whatever knowledge I've got or whatever experience I've got on my CV, I can just talk about that naturally and honestly, and I don't really need to swat up about it. But I take on board all the comments that people posted in the group. So if you didn't see that, then obviously have a look at the Facebook post. But some of the basic stuff that I definitely do recommend you do is obviously just do a basic bit of research about the company that you're being interviewed by. So I just did a quick look at their website. I already knew what they did, so I just wanted to get a basic feel for the industry they're in and the sort of business they do. That's all I wanted to know. I maybe had a look at their main prime locations throughout the UK and the world, and that's about it. You don't need to memorize things like their mission statement or their company values. I don't believe in all that twaddle. The next thing I did was just familiarised myself with my own CV. So again, that might sound obvious, but I printed off my CV and made sure that the key roles on my CV that may come up during this telephone interview, I just made sure I refreshed my memory on exactly what I did at each of those positions, just so it was really fresh in my mind. And then of course I printed out the job spec. So printed out the job spec, I actually highlighted or underlined a few of the critical words, and I wrote a few notes about how some of the things they wanted relate to certain roles on my CV already. So if they said something about XYZ, I can say, well, I did the same thing at this role. And so I did that, and that's basically all the prep I did. I didn't do anything else about technical tests because I don't generally get technical questions, really technical testing questions, should I say, on telephone interviews. It'll be more strategy or some technical tool questions rather than an actual test. So how did the actual interview go? Well, telephone interview went pretty well, I thought, as far as I could tell. So the guy introduced himself. It was just one person interviewing me today, and he started to talk about the company a little bit. Then he actually just said to me, what do you know about the role? Or how is the role as you think, as you see it? Which is always a funny one, because all I could go on was the job spec that's been sent to me. I mean, how else am I meant to know anything else about the position at all, apart from what's been given to me by the agency? So I always think that's a funny question. So I basically summarised what I thought the role was, but I didn't just obviously, regurgitate the stuff on the job spec verbatim back to the guy. I basically said, this is what I think you're saying on the job spec, which I think means you want this sort of a person. And so we discussed that for a little bit, and he was like, yes, that's exactly the sort of person I'm after. So that breaks the ice, gets things moving. Then he told me a little bit about the company, a little bit more about the role, and then he basically just said, so tell me just more about yourself. What have you done up until now? So that was my opportunity to then highlight a few of the roles on my CV. I didn't go back, obviously, 24 years of contracting or whatever. I just basically said the basics of how I started out, and then I mentioned a couple of key critical projects that I think related to some of the things they were looking for. So I related to a job, for example, a few years ago, and where I went in to fix a monitoring system, but there was a team in India, for example. I didn't need to be able to fix everything. They wanted an overarching person to look across all their monitoring systems and bring it all together. So I did go in and technically fix some bits, but they wanted someone with a bit more of a broader reach, broader experience. So that's something that this company is looking for. So I specifically referenced that project. So that was one thing I brought up. Then he talked to me about application monitoring, for example. So another area of my niche. And so I referenced again a company a few years ago, Bupa, where we set up some sort of application monitoring there. And so I basically picked and chose certain roles on my CV that I knew would jump out and highlight to him some of the skills that he had put down on the job spec. So that seemed to go really well. He actually then said, I had a whole list of questions that I was going to ask you, but you've already answered them already. So I take that as a good thing, maybe I just waffled on a bit. but no, I think what came across was that I'm passionate for the stuff that that I work in, and I don't just work for any old company. I pick and choose my contracts quite carefully, quite cautiously, and this is a company I would like to do the work for, because I said the project looks really interesting, it looks juicy, it looks exciting, it looks a bit scary, it looks really challenging, because that's what I want from contracts. As I've said before on a few posts, I don't want some easy, shitty BAU piece of work where I'm just sitting there as part of a team not doing much, because I've done that in the past, and I'll tell you, for one thing, your brain just goes to mush. So I did that, if you remember, for a client years ago, and it came around to renewal time, and what did I do? I just bent over and took the money. I took the renewal, because that was the sort of bitch I was. I wanted the money. It was an easy life. I mean, fair play if that's all you want is the money, but that's not what I want from contracts. I don't just want the money. I want to be challenged. I want to be stretched. I want to provide value. So I definitely recommend don't doing contracts just for the money. And so this job, I'll be doing it for that challenge, not for the money. So anyway, I hope that's beneficial to you guys. So the last thing was, we left it that the usual thing is you're going to leave it to the client will get in touch with the agency. So after the telephone interview, I emailed the agency to say I think it went well. I said, can you just let me know what the feedback is from the client, positive or negative, because I'd like to know if you just thought, no, Dave sounds like a complete wanker, or if he sounds too confident or cocky, or he didn't really fit the bill. I'd like to know that, because it's all good feedback. So now it's just a waiting game, and wait to see if they want to interview me again. Telephone, they did hint that it'll probably be a face-to-face interview next, so we shall see what happens next. But I hope that's beneficial to you guys. If you've got any questions, obviously just pop a comment below and I'll answer them straight away. Have a fantastic day, all the best, see you soon.